Good day, everyone. Our topic for today's discussion is all about budgetary system. Sound financial administration is a basic requirement to national development. Practically, every government decision has financial implications which influence all sectors of economy, both public and private. Sound financial administration is the careful tracking and prudent management of your company's financial resources and cash flows. According to Felix A. Negro and Lloyd G. Negro, financial administration is therefore of special importance because while there seems to be no limit to what we may ask of the government, there is always a limit to the funds available, and the financial pinch is greater than ever before. Therefore, financial administration is especially important because they are the responsible for the overall fiscal management, accounting, and financial reporting for the department. The point out of J. A. Jacobson and M. H. Lippmann, efficient financial organization requires, first, a budget system for the planning of balanced expenditures and revenues, and second, a system of control and audit for proper custody of funds. This means a controller's office, frequently under executive jurisdiction, to check disbursements, and auditor's office, or frequently under legislative jurisdiction, to examine the accounts of administrative agencies. In the Philippines, the Department of Budget and Management, which is under the direct supervision of the Office of the President, may be considered as the Controller's Office and the Commission on Audit as the Auditor's Office. The Commission of Audit, however, by virtue of its being a constitutional office, is not under the legislative jurisdiction or the control of the executive. The Department of Budget and Management is responsible for the sound and efficient use of government resources for national development. This chapter will not attempt to discuss all the components of financial administration, for they are specialized fields of administration. The budgeting system in the Philippines follows the performance budgeting approach. The innovation introduced in PD, or the Presidential Decree Number 1177, otherwise known as the Budget Reform Decree of 1977, such as zero-based budget, etc., are the approaches that have been developed to achieve a more effective allocation of resources. So budgeting, on the other hand, is the process of systematically relating the expenditure of funds to the accomplishment of planned objectives. The performance budgeting is a management-oriented system of budgeting which measures actual or estimated results in terms of benefits accruing the public and their unit cost. So the performance budgeting is also the practice of preparing the budget based on the evaluation of the productivity of the different operations in an organization. On the other hand, zero-based budgeting is a process which requires the budget estimates to be evaluated on a zero-based approach rather on an incremental approach, as was customarily done where only new activities and additional outlays have to be justified. For example, let's say that a company outsources the main manufacturing of a major part in a key item that they make. So each year, the cost of the outsourced part increased by 5%, left over time the marketing function and marketing priorities of the company change. The national government of the Philippines operated on a legally established fiscal year. It was operated on fiscal year beginning July 1 and it ends on June 30 from 1946 to 1976. The change in the budget year was effected after 30 years through the PD, or the Presidential Decree Number 777, enacted on August 24, 1975. While the process of making budgets is geared to a fiscal year or calendar year, it is continuous. Also, Every budget process carries with it the elements of planning, management, and control. The fiscal year means a period of time lasting 1 year but not necessarily starting at the beginning of the calendar year. Planning is the process of deciding on the objectives of the government and organization, on changes in these activities and the policies that are to govern the acquisition of the position of these resources. So planning is the process of constructing a budget and then utilizing it to control the operations of a business. Management is the programming of approved goals into specific projects and activities, the design of organization units to carry out the program, staffing of these units, and the procurement of resources. While the control is the process of binding operating officials to the policies and plans set by the organization. Control is predominant during the execution and accountability stages, although the form of budget estimates and appropriations is often determined by control consideration. So in another hand, control in budgeting as a control tool, it provides an action plan to ensure that the organization's actual activities are least deviated from the planned activities. The ultimate goal of budgeting is to produce a financial plan that would achieve increasing development of the country with the optimum use of its available resources. If estimated revenue is insufficient to achieve a balanced budget, proposed revenue measures sufficient to a balanced budget should be included in the proposed budget. So, a budget can also be considered balanced in hindsight after a full year's worth of revenues. Balanced budget is a budget in which revenues are equal to expenditures. Also, it is a situation in financial planning or the budgeting process for total planned spending. So, balanced budget is important because planning balanced budget helps government to avoid excessive spending and allows them to focus funds on areas and services that requires them the most. The Philippines would find it difficult to use the traditional approach of balancing the budget. To develop these resources, there is a need to accelerate capital formation. Its development project requires sizable investment can never be implemented if it will continue to rely mainly on its limited national income. Moreover, there are governments which sometimes find it advantageous to keep not merely a balanced current budget but also a capital outlay budget that requires borrowing for extraordinary necessities which are to be of long-time public benefits and which can be afforded only through spreading costs over several years. The concept of national budgeting system in the country are as follows. Concept of balance. Expenditures shall not exceed receipts or resources. So in concept of balance, it is also the ability to move on to remain in a position without losing or falling. Second, concept of fiscal control. No money shall be paid out of the treasury except by a provision in the country's constitution. There are other provisions which govern the budget authorization. The specifies are established in the Presidential Decree number 1177. So, in concept of fiscal control, it promotes the effectiveness and efficiency of the operations. Third, concept of obligations. This is analogous to private law of obligation and written contract. An obligation is a legal act of a duty authorized official or representative which binds the government to an immediate or future payment from funds to the government for specific purposes. Fourth, or the last one, concept of appropriation. An appropriation is a legislative authorization for a department or agency to obligate the government for specified purposes. So in concept of appropriation, No money shall be paid by the Treasury except in pursuance of an appropriation made by law. So appropriation, as a rule, are made for a single fiscal year. However, program planning and financing must be made of a different time basis. They also believe that the chief executive is in a position to know administrative needs and their costs. Moreover, the legislative body is in a position to give closer and more interested scrutiny to a proposed program if it has had no share in its preparation. A distinction should be made between budget and budgeting system. The budgeting system includes the all-comprehensive process as well as the laws, rules, and practices observed by government in planning and carrying out its financial program. The aim of such audit is to determine with what outlays previous appropriation have been spent, the preparation of estimates, their authorization by law, and their audit comprise the cycle to be found in every efficient budgetary system. All branches of government, including the legislature, should observe a common budgetary procedure. As a procedure, the budget comprehends four definite and consecutive stages, namely budget preparation, legislative authorization, budget execution, and budget accountability. The first stage involves the various steps in preparing the budget estimates and framing the financial plan. The second stage, the legislative authorization of the plan. The third, the carrying out of the plan and the authorized. And the fourth, the accounting and audit and the review of the financial operation. The budget system consists of three elements: financial plan, procedure for formulating a budget system, and the government authority responsible for its successful operations. Now let's talk about the types of budget. Based on governmental system, there are two types of budgets: the presidential and the congressional budgets. So the presidential budget is based on the principle of separation of government powers. It is a budget in which initiative and responsibility in the preparation is vested in the President, while the approval of the fiscal measures of the government is given to the Congress. The congressional budget, known also as the parliamentary budget, is based on the principle of the cabinet or responsible government. A parliamentary government is one where the political power resides in the parliament as a whole. In a parliamentary system, the cabinet is headed by the premier or prime minister, the political ruler of the ruling party in the parliament, who himself is a member of the parliament. The prime minister are the one who is responsible for the nation's financial policy. The parliament merely analyzes, discusses, or criticizes the budget as initiated by the head of government. So, this figure is the flow chart of budget process. Used in the start, the budget preparation, the legislative authorization, and if you approve, yes or no, veto, then goes to budget execution, and then budget accountability and of the program and staff. So the legend is this shape, or the rhombus shape, is the terminal box. The rectangle is the operation box, while the diamond is the decision box, and the flow direction is the line. So again, this is the flow chart of budget process. Considering the strengths and weaknesses of the two types of budgets, the Philippines, based on its own experience, has the presidential budgetary system in character, form, and substance. So let's talk about the budget process in the national government. Budget process refers to the process by which governments create and approve a budget. The budget process is complex not only because new government activities are complex in themselves, but also because new fiscal objectives are established each year. So, the budget process is complex not only because new government activities are complex in themselves, but also because new fiscal objectives are established each year. Okay. Excuse me. The Presidential Decree Number 1177 revives the budget process to unconditionalize the budgetary innovations developed by the national government since September 21, 1972. It requires the following. First, the formulation of the budget that supports the National Development Plan and reflects the objectives and strategies of the plan. Second, the preparation of the budget within the context of the total resources of the government, including revenues and receipts, expenditures and borrowings of national and local government units, including government-owned and controlled corporations. Third, the preparation of the annual budget as an integral part of a long-term plan and long-term budget program. Fourth, the specification of multi-year requirements in each stage of the budget process. Fifth, the preparation of the budget at the regional level, consolidation and review at the department level, taking into consideration the goals, plans, and requirements of the regional offices in the interest of full government response to local thinking and initiative. And last one is the implementation and timing of the major development projects which may affect the infrastructure program, debt ceilings, domestic credit, balance of international payments, and the determination of the expenditure levels to ensure the observance of established fiscal, monetary, international payment, and other constraints. So, the budget process is applied in the Philippines. In the national government, the budget preparation, which preparation of budget estimates. Its classification is Department of Budget and Management, departments, agents or the agencies, and the budget authorization and the legislative authorization of the budget. The third one is the budget execution, allotment of appropriations, and occurrence of the obligations. And the fourth one is the budget accountability, reporting of an actual performance against plan. But while within the departments or agencies, there is four categories: planning, establishing performance objectives within specified guides and limits. Second is estimating, determining amount of personnel, materials, services, and facilities required to pay for them. The third is the reviewing, ascertaining that basic objectives, resources, requirements, and peso amounts are accurate and conform to overall guides and limits. And the fourth is operating, accomplishing approved objectives within the amounts approved by the Congress. So, the attainment of the national objectives and the implementation of government plans depend to a great extent of the efficiency of the following components of the budget process. Budget preparation. The Constitution provides no money shall be paid out of the Treasury except in the pursuance of an appropriations made by law. The budgetary power is vested in the President of the Philippines. So, the budgetary power is vested in the President of the Philippines. So, he is entrusted by the Constitutional with the task of preparing the national budget. The following are the steps outlined for budget preparation. First, the budget is not intended to establish priorities only. Rather, the budget is intended to look at the priorities and to translate these priorities into operational terms. In terms of pesos and centavos, in terms of capital outlays, in terms of equipment purchases, in terms of supplies and materials, and in terms of the nuts and bolts of financial execution, the starting point in the need for the improvement of the quality of life and the worker or the common tao. Second, in the formulation of the budget, the matter of sectoral presentation should be considered as an improvement. The traditional presentation used to be by agencies, a particular bureau or office, but the new approach attempts to arrive at some type of further review so that the budget or more than one department are reviewed as part of an overall sectoral presentation. Third, Budgeting shall be on a regional level in order to be responsive to regional development strategies, to differentiate in regional implementation, regional needs and requirements. And the fourth, there is a need for the long-term planning in order to provide for government services that will be necessitated by the increase in population. So, as practice in the Philippines, budget preparation has two phases: the budget policy formulation phase and the preparation of the estimates, the review and consolidation into the budget document for submission to the Congress. Excuse me. The preparation of budget estimates involves all departments and agencies of the national government, including local government units and government-owned and controlled corporations. The responsibility of the Department of Budget and Management is to coordinate the executive and legislative activities. It is responsible for the articulation of the President's national policy guidelines in the proposed legislation. Among the detailed requirements of the departments in the preparation of the budget are as follows: identification of priority activities for each budgetary program and project, identification of work measurement units or output indicators, identification of resources in physical terms to carry out targets, qualification in financial terms of physical resources requirements, and the preparation of estimate in prescribed budget formats. Among the budget estimates of the departments and agencies are the submitted to the Department of Budget and Management in accordance with the time schedule prepared by it for its review and consolidation. The Department of Budget and Management, mandated by law reviews of estimates submitted by the different departments based on their estimated revenues, the soundness of the proposals, and their conformance to the policy adopted by the President. The approved estimates adopted by the Department of Budget and Management is then forwarded by the President to the Congress as appropriation request. Regional budgeting of agency and administration and of agency budgeting has been directed by the President under LOI number 447 and 448. Moreover, beginning calendar year 1978, Presidential Decree number 1177 provides that the budget of the national government shall be prepared on the basis of budgetary proposals of the different regional offices of the national government agencies. So, its section 17 provides the budget of the national government agencies shall be prepared taking into full and careful consideration the opportunities and requirements specific to the various regions of the country where there are organized. Regional offices shall originate agency budget proposals in accordance with approved priorities and guidelines. As earlier pointed out, the 1978 national budget may be considered as the first purely performance budget of the national government. From the Department of Budget and Management, the proposals go to the President for approval and are then submitted to the Congress where they are discussed and are finally enacted as the General Appropriations Law. Budget authorization, the second phase of the budget process, is the legislative authorization of the budget. The legislative consideration of the Appropriations Law is governed by Section 22 of Article 7 of the Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, which provides that the President shall submit to the Congress within 30 days from the opening of its regular session, as the basis of the General Appropriations Bill, a budget of expenditures and sources of financing, including receipts from existing and proposed revenues measures. So, this involves a detailed review of the budget proposals in accordance with the rules of the Congress. In conformity with the constitutional mandate, the legislative power of the government is vested in the Congress, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. except to the extent reserved to the people by the provision of initiative and referendum. The President is responsible for the Congress for the program of government. His principal duty is to formulate the guidelines of national policies in accordance with the constitutions. These policies will be carried out by the President, who shall be elected by the direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years. The President's approval is not required before a bill passed by the Congress becomes law. As provided for the Constitution, every bill by Congress shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the President. If he approve the same, he shall sign it. Otherwise, he shall veto it and return the same with these objections to the House where it originated, which shall later proceed to reconsider it. If after such reconsideration, 2/3 of all the members of such House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of all the members of the House, it shall become law. The President shall communicate his veto of any bill to the House where it originated within 30 days after the date of receipt thereof. Otherwise, it shall become a law as if he had signed. So it states here that even when the Congress made a law and then they give it to the President to approve it, and the President will not approve about it, when the 2/3 of the members of their groups will agree about it, even the President will not sign it, it shall become a law after all. So, after the legislative action of the President's budget message, the Department of Budget and Management prepares the following related documents: appropriations law setting forth authorized appropriations by department or agencies, national government's program of expenditures showing approved programs and projects of department and agencies, description of activities, target activities in terms of work units, unit cost, number of man-years, rate of production, and etc. Itemization of personal services, listing the authorized itemized position and their corresponding classifications and authorized salaries, salaries tables, budget and brief, and special analysis. In the Congress of the Philippines, the budget is presented as the General Appropriations Bill. The Constitution provides that all appropriation, revenue, or tariff bills, bills authorizing increase of the public debt, bills of local application, and private bills shall originate exclusively in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concord with amendments. Now, budget execution is the third phase of the budget process, covers the operational phase of the budgeting. It is concerned with the control of releases, allotment of the appropriations, and incurrence of obligations. At this stage, fixed plans for the use of appropriated funds are adopted, and budgetary controls put in force to direct and limit the spending of funds according to plans. During the budget execution phase, the following activities are undertaken. The Department of Budget and Management prepares the program of expenditure and obligation ceilings of departments or agencies, observing current fiscal policies and guidelines. Second, the Department of Budget and Management notifies agencies of obligation ceilings. From the receipt of obligation ceiling from the Department of Budget Management, department or agencies allocate ceiling to each budgetary program or project. Third, agencies prepare and submit work and financial plans to the Department of Budget and Management on the basis of activity in terms of work units, resources and physical terms, and financial requirements. Excuse me. Fourth, submit other required documents necessary for the advice and allotments, such as equipment, procurement program, justifications for key budgetary inclusions or the KPIs, or special budget if necessary, and etc. The Department of Budget and Management reviews work and financial plans of department or agencies. Fifth, The Department of Budget and Management releases comprehensive advice of allotment and the corresponding cash disbursements outstanding. 6. The Department of Budget and Management approves modification in the original work and financial plan. Now, budget accountability, the fourth phase of the budget process. Budget accountability concerns the reporting of actual performance against planned performance. It consists of the preparation and submission of the following requirements: financial and physical reports of operation. It is their periodic reporting by the agencies of performance under their approved budgets. Actual cash disbursements and unpaid obligation. It is served as basis for management review of government activities and the fiscal and policy implications thereof from the standpoint of department or agency management, of the Department of Budget and Management and the President. Third, actions of the Commission and Audit. Such actions assure the fidelity of officials and employees in regard to their handling of government receipts and expenditures. So in actions of Commission of Audit, the emphasis in this action of the Commission of Audit is on the legality of actions taken during the budget execution. Management review is concerned. The fourth phase of the budget process, that is accountability, is approved through the various stages of the budget process. So budget process in the department. Each department has a fiscal organization to meet its own internal needs and the requirements of the national government, particularly the Department of Budget and Management, the Department of Finance, and the Commission of Audit. To ensure that the budget is sound from the standpoint of all concerned, it is required that, first, all officials and supervisors, regardless of organizational level, should participate in planning the operations of the departments, and, second, each official and supervisor must accept full responsibility for achieving the goals set in the financial plan. To achieve this broad participation of the personnel in planning the budget of the department, it requires a high degree of coordination and integration of all levels of the organization from the president down to the lowest employee. The planning process normally takes the following patterns. The president determines the basic fiscal policy. He establishes the broad budgetary limits, the areas of major program emphasis, and such other matters as are necessary for the guidelines of the department in planning their budgets. Second, the Department of Budget and Management includes the broad policy students program and of the president in call for estimates forwarded the departments. So in for the second process or the second patterns of the planning process, it also sets forth specific guides and policies to govern the preparation of the budgets as the different departments. The head of each department of the national government establishes the broad program for the department within the limits of the policies of the president. So, on this basis, each bureau or regional director submits to him a summary statement of the plans and objectives of his bureau or regional office for the carrying year or the coming year. Fourth, the secretary reviews the plans and decides on the objectives, emphasis, and financial limits that should govern the programs of the bureau or regional offices of his department. The bureau or regional director prepares and reviews with the secretary the preliminary plans and objectives of his bureau and regional offices. The bureau or regional director plans and develops with each division chief the detailed objectives and work programs of the different division of the bureau or regional offices as a basis for the budget year estimated. He then integrates the plans of the divisions into an approved plan for the bureau or regional office. The division chief and other supervisor personnel assist the bureau or regional director in preparing the preliminary plan, the detailed work program, and other materials. Throughout the planning process, the department budget officer acts for the secretary in coordinating and scheduling the work required for the timely preparation of the budget of the department. Estimating, the second phase of the budget process, also a part of budget process wherein the amount of resources required to carry out the plan. The Bureau or Regional Officer is the key responsible for the satisfactory preparation of the budget estimate. His responsibility includes technical preparation of the budget, coordination and scheduling of all activities concerned with establishing, development of instructions for the division chiefs and other concerned indicating procedure to be followed, information to be practiced, time schedule to meet, and other matters related to budget work, and last, the monitoring to the Bureau or Regional Director the progress of the work. Excuse me. Reviewing, the third phase of budget process. It is also ascertaining that the basic objectives, resources, requirements, and costs of the budget plan are accurate and conform to overall guides and limits. So, at this point, the Department of Budget Officer is the key person responsible for developing a plan and as a schedule for detailed review of all the budget estimates. The Bureau of or Regional Director reviews the entire estimates for the balance and consistency, conformity to policy, and adequacy of the supporting justifications. At the department level, the Department Budget Officer analyzes the budgets of the Bureau or Regional Offices analyzes the budgets of the Bureau or Regional Office to determine their conformity to policy guides or fiscal limitations and adequacy of justification materials. At the cabinet level, the Secretary is responsible to the budget of his department. Also, the Secretary is responsible to the President to exercise the supervision of all departments and the Congress for significant deviation. So, as mandated by the Constitution, the President is responsible for controlling operations of all executive departments, bureaus, and offices. Presidents delegates responsibility and authority essentially as follows. First, to the Department of Budget and Management, to assure conformance to the provisions to the budget law and to advise him to the performance of the different departments so that necessary control action may be taken. Second, to the Department Secretaries of the National Government, to assure conformance to annual policies and plan contained into the appropriation law. To carry out assigned role in the control process, the Department of Budget and Management prescribes the following systems to be carried out by the different departments of the national government. First, systems of all allocating funds to assure that expenditure proposals conform to the budget law, the Appropriations Act, and the national policies and plans. Second, system of reporting to obtain from the departments of current data on the operations that are related to approved budget plans for analyzing a review of the Department of Budget and Management, and third, a system of management control adequate to establish internal control over both expenditures and work accomplishments so timely decisions may be made when necessary to keep operations in line with approved plans. Under the allotment system, there are two major classifications of expenditures: current operating expenditure and capital outlays. The Department of Budget and Management performs the following tasks. First, allots funds for each project. Under the current operating expenditure by three major classifications of expenditure: personal services, maintenance, and other operating expenses and equipment. Second, allots funds in accordance with the planned levels of work to be accomplished. For example, in terms of the units of work and the manpower required to do the work. Third, allots found on a quarterly basis to provide for actual needs and no limit expenditures to income whenever called for. Fourth, withholds funds from allotment when income is less than amounts appropriated for expenditures, funds appropriated are no longer needed, and inability of the departments or agencies to submit the required document or papers. And last, provides flexibility to departments by permitting transfers between allotment and changes when these are consistent with budget policies and legal limitations. So, closely related to the allotment system in the reporting system, which provides data needed. Under its reporting system, the Department of Budget and Management requires the following reports. First, income, to provide current and meaningful data in determining whether project levels of expenditures can be maintained, and second, operations, to provide information on actual expenditures, amount of work accomplished, and manpower. So these reports enable the Department of Budget and Management to ascertain the progress of all programs and projects being undertaken. So, so explanation alone, without remedial action, is not considered satisfactory under the budgetary control system. So, that's the end of my discussion. Thank you for listening.